The night he chose that corner booth, Daniel believed it would be another quiet, invisible meal, the kind where you stare at steam rising from cheap soup and pretend it's enough company. He didn't know that in a few minutes, a single sentence from a stranger would change not just his dinner but the direction of his life. And if you've ever felt alone in a crowded place, stay with this story until the very end, because what happens next might feel uncomfortably close to home. Daniel was a single dad who had learned how to survive on silence. 3 years earlier, his wife had died suddenly, leaving behind unanswered questions, unpaid bills, and a little girl named Emma who still set an extra plate on the table out of habit. Most evenings, Daniel ate at home with Emma, pretending his appetite hadn't disappeared with his grief. But tonight was different. Emma was staying with a neighbor so Daniel could work an extra shift the next morning. On his way home, exhaustion pressed on him like a physical weight, and he stopped at a small diner near the bus station. Warm lights, cracked vinyl seats, and the promise of food that didn't require washing dishes afterward. He sat alone, jacket still on, hands rough from construction work wrapped around a chipped mug of coffee. Around him were families laughing, couples leaning close, and a group of teenagers loud with the confidence he used to have. Daniel focused on his plate, counting bites the way he counted coins so carefully, quietly, without drawing attention. He told himself he preferred eating alone. It was easier than explaining why there was no ring on his finger anymore. No smile in his eyes. That was when he heard a voice. "Excuse me, broken bar. I'm sorry to bother you." Daniel looked up, already rehearsing a polite nod. Standing beside his table was a woman about his age, holding the hand of a small boy with wide, tired eyes. Her coat was thin for the weather, her hair pulled back in a rushed, uneven ponytail. She looked embarrassed, like every word she was about to say cost her pride. "My son's hungry," she said softly. "The place is full, and I don't want him standing. Can we stay here a while, just until he finishes?" Daniel hesitated, not because he didn't want them there, but because something in her voice cracked open a door he'd spent years barricading. Hunger. He knew that word too well. He glanced at the boy, who clutched a toy car with one missing wheel, and then back at the woman, whose eyes carried the kind of worry that didn't disappear after a good night's sleep. "Of course," Daniel said, standing up without thinking. "Please sit." "I was almost done anyway." She shook her head quickly. No, we can share a please," he repeated, sliding over. "I'm Daniel." "Lena," she said, her shoulders relaxing just a little. "And this is Noah." Noah climbed onto the seat, careful and quiet, as if afraid the chair might reject him. The waitress came by, and Lena ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, apologizing under her breath. Daniel pretended not to notice, but when the food arrived, he quietly pushed half his plate toward Noah. "Growing kids eat more than grown men," he said, forcing a smile. Lena's eyes filled, and she turned away quickly. "Thank you," she whispered. As they ate, small talk filled the space. At first the weather, work, how loud the city had become. Then, slowly, the truth slipped through the cracks. Lena had lost her job months earlier when the company downsized. She'd been juggling part-time work, childcare, and rent that never stopped climbing. Tonight, they were between places, staying with a friend who lived far enough away that they had to wait for the late bus. Daniel listened, really listened, the way he hadn't listened to anyone since his wife passed. He told her about Emma, about learning to braid hair from YouTube videos, about nights when the house felt too big for two people. Noah perked up at the mention of another child, asking questions about Emma like they were already friends. Something strange happened in that booth. The loneliness Daniel had carried like a second spine began to bend. He realized he wasn't eating alone anymore, not just physically, but emotionally. Across from him was someone who understood what it meant to keep going when you were tired past the point of rest. When the check came, Lena reached for her wallet, hands trembling. Daniel gently pushed it back. "I've got this," he said. "I can't. You can," he replied. "And maybe someday, when someone else needs it, you'll do the same." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded, swallowing hard. Okay, but only if you promise me something. What's that? That you don't disappear, she said. People always do. Daniel surprised himself by answering without hesitation. I won't. They walked out together, the cold air sharp but honest. The bus lights appeared in the distance, and Lena adjusted Noah's scarf. Before boarding, she turned back to Daniel. Thank you for tonight, she said. You fed my son. But you did more than that. Daniel watched them go, feeling something unfamiliar warm his chest. Hope, not the loud, dramatic kind but the quiet kind that stays. Weeks passed, then months. Daniel and Lena kept their promise. Coffee turned into shared dinners into routines. Emma and Noah became inseparable, arguing like siblings and laughing like old friends. There were setbacks, missed buses, rejected job applications, days when money ran out before the week. But there was also something new. They didn't face it alone. Lena found steadier work. Daniel picked up a better position through a friend. They didn't magically become rich or problem-free, but they became strong in a way loneliness never allowed. One evening, back at the same diner, Daniel sat at that same booth, but this time, it was crowded. Emma was talking a mile a minute. Noah was stealing fries, and Lena was laughing in a way that filled the room. Daniel looked around and realized the thing he once feared, a sharing space, sharing pain, had become the very thing that saved him. He thought back to that first night, to the moment he believed he'd eat alone forever. All it took to change that belief was one brave question and one honest yes. If this story touched you, if you've ever felt invisible or carried more than your share of the world's weight, remember this. Sometimes the smallest kindness creates a future you never imagined. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps more stories of hope, humanity, and quiet miracles reach the people who need them most.